In this video, we will look at the differences between nominal and real GDP and why we need to create this pair of GDP. When not just GDP is good enough, we need a real GDP. So first of all, I want to show you this comparison. So everybody loves burgers. So this is the material cost for a burger in 1985 and compare that with the 2015. So you can see for the bread in 1985 is 9 cents and in 2015 is 20 cents. And lettuce 1985 3 cents, 2015 7 cents. Tomato 10 cents in 1985 and 23 cents in 2015. And mac and cheese 11 cents in 1985 and 19 in 2015, and beef patty 31 cents and in 2015 changed to $1.05. So the cost for a burger in 1985 is 64 cents, but in 2015 is $1.74. So my question is, compare 1985's burger with the 2015's burger. Does that mean the value of the burger increase? Yeah, you can see the dollar value increase, but the material are exactly the same. So the burger, the bread in 1985 and 2015, they don't change too much, still be the bread, as well as lettuce, tomato, and the mac and cheese and beef patty. So, but we do see the price changed. So which means if you are using the same method to compare 1985's GDP with the 2015's GDP, and we can see it's unfair. So why the price changed? So everybody heard of the term called inflation. So the price change is caused by the inflation. So obviously this is going to be a problem if we try to compare the economy growth or decrease across different period of times. So one thing you have to keep in mind, the definition we learned before the GDP is for considered as nominal GDP, because we didn't consider the impact of the inflation crossing different period of times. So one thing I want to mention here, changes in GDP brought about by changes in the price level can give a distorted view of economic activity. So we always see the inflation. So we always have the product's price gets higher and higher, but that doesn't mean our economy is growing. It just means the dollar value is increasing because the inflation. So distinguishing increases in quantity from increasing in price is done by distinguishing between real GDP and nominal GDP. So now we're going to compare these two definitions, nominal and real GDP. So the nominal GDP is the value of the final output produced in a given period, measured in the price of that period. So usually it's measured by the current price. But when we talk about real GDP, so that means the value of the final output produced in a given period is adjusted for changing price. So you can see the difference between nominal and the real GDP is nominal GDP will be affected by the inflation. However, the real GDP will not, which means the real GDP is the better way to compare across different period of time. And so, to summarize what I just said, the distinction between nominal and real GDP is important whenever the price level changes. So if the price level never change, it doesn't matter you use nominal GDP or real GDP. However, what we see crossing different years is we always has a changing price level. So that's why when you are comparing different period of time to look at whether economy getting better or getting worse, so you actually should use real GDP, which already removed the effect of the price changes. So to understand how to calculate the real GDP from the nominal GDP, so we have to introduce a new concept called base year. So the base year is the year used for comparative analysis, so the basis for indexing price changes. So we arbitrarily set the price index in the base year equal to 100. And then the GDP for any other year is recalculated into base year dollars using the price index for that year. So remember I mentioned for the nominal GDP, we are using the current year's dollar value. When we are trying to calculate real GDP, we have to convert our current dollar value to the base year's dollar value. So that's why you have to identify the base year before you go further to calculate the real GDP. So now let's look at how we really calculate the real GDP. So the real GDP equal to the nominal GDP in that year and divide by the price index. So now what is price index? So the price index represents the price level percentage change from the base of 100. So which means the price index will equal to 100 plus the percentage change. So from current year to the base year and then divide by 100. So that will give you the price index. So let's look at example together so you will have better understanding in terms of how to convert the real GDP from the nominal GDP to real GDP. So keep in mind this is the formula we're going to use. Real GDP equal to the nominal GDP divided by the price index. So let's see the 1991 is our base year. So our nominal GDP is $5,677.5 billion. So our price index in current year is 117.8, and then we divide by the base year, which is 100. So our price index will equal to 1.178. So we will convert the nominal GDP 5,677.5 billion to the real GDP. What we will do is we will use the 5,677.5 divided by 1.178, which is our price index. So we will end up $4,819.9 billion. So this will be our real GDP using the 1991 as our base year. So now you will ask, how can I know the price index? So usually you will be given. So and later we're going to talk about how the price index can be measured. So this is the first practice. So look at our second practice. Again, we try to figure out our real GDP. So here's the information we know. So the nominal GDP is 15 trillion and the price index is, so currently is 150, the base year is 100, so 150 divided by 100 equal to 1.5. So that will be our price index equal to 1.5. So to convert the nominal GDP 15 trillion to the current value, the real value, so it will be equal to 15 divided by 1.5, we end up 10. So that will be $10 trillion. So that is how we convert the nominal GDP to real GDP. So the key here is, first of all, know what is price index, and the second, to remember this conversion formula. Nominal GDP divided by the price index, you will get the real GDP. So here is a summary across in the past 10 years how our nominal and the real GDP changed. So you can see our nominal GDP is very quickly increased. But if you try to look at the real GDP and we use 2000 as our base year, actually our GDP is growing, but it's relatively slow, which is not as fast as nominal GDP indicated. So that's not surprising us because, as I said, as every year passed by, our price level is increasing. So we always have kind of inflation. So this is the differences between nominal and real GDP. Hopefully you'll remember how to do the calculation and why we need to know real GDP.